Excellent. Well, thank you so much for the introduction. I'm just going to share my PowerPoint here. So, as everyone was saying, my name is Ty Samson. I just want to first start off by thanking everyone for taking time out of their schedules today to come in and listen in with me for a bit. I'm really honored and pretty excited to spend this time with you all. I'd also like to extend a warm thank you to SFC for giving me the opportunity to be a part of this really important conversation, as well as my employer, Stillwater Consulting, for providing me with the time and the resources to make this happen. So, a brief background about myself before we get into the presentation. I've been working in the forest industry both directly and indirectly for the past 11 years. I started out tree planting in the interior of British Columbia, and I went on to earn my tech diploma in forest resource management from Vancouver Island University. After working various roles in the industry, traveling the province, working in remote locations, I got this weird obsession with landslides and decided to go back to school and get a bachelor's of science in environmental geoscience. So I now work for Stillwater Consulting, and you mentioned Timber Connect. We will discuss both of those Timber Connect is an initiative, Stillwater is the company. But what I do with Stillwater is I teach. So I teach entry-level forestry skills, and I'm actually the co-host of the Timber Connect podcast. So our goal there is to facilitate informative, science-based discussions about forest management in Canada and inspire positive change in the industry by connecting people to ideas, opportunities, and each other. So if you have any questions about my background or what I've done in the industry, I'll be happy to answer them in the Q&A after the presentation. So we'll get into it here. I wanted to start the conversation with posing you all with a question, and that's, what do you think of when you hear about forestry? Like, what comes to your mind? In my experience, when I ask my students this, or new entry-level workers, some of the first things that come to their mind are clear cutting, harvesting, deforestation, or old growth. Now, this makes sense. When you consider the media coverage on forestry, it's hyper-focused on contentious and controversial topics like old growth logging and protests. So after today's presentation, I'm hoping you'll leave here with some new vocabulary and maybe a different idea of what forestry is and what it means to be a forestry worker in Canada. The cold, hard reality about forestry is that it has an image problem. The romantics among us, we still imagine plaid lumberjacks living the simple life off-grid, while the cynics see unbridled fire, clear cutting, and devastation. However, the truth is that sustainable forest management is a multidisciplinary science, full of industry professionals that are passionate stewards of our country's most valuable resources. They're working at the intersection of theory and practice. Forestry is an understanding of the physics of road building in complex and extreme terrain and carefully felling trees. Forestry work is also an understanding of the chemistry of our water and our air to minimize our environmental impact. It's an industry that operates over generations of tree growth and animal wildlife, with the three pillars of sustainability guiding our practices. Regulatory bodies ensure that this isn't just a promise, but an institution to safeguard our forests and put them in good hands. Forestry also isn't perfect. We all see the headlines and the protests on the news. A single old growth tree, while contentious as a resource, is not the defining symbol of an entire industry. Sustainable forest management is committed to conservation and sustainability, balanced with the needs of a resource economy. Navigating those tensions isn't always easy, especially in a country as large as Canada. What might be considered good for Jack in Alberta is not necessarily considered good for Jill in Ontario. Forestry is an industry in a state of flux, adapting to a shifting culture and a new scientific understanding. The next generation of forestry workers are critical to achieving the vision of sustainable forest management, both in policy and on the front line. So now let's look at some numbers. I pulled this graph here from Natural Resource Canada, and it's a summary of the forest sector's gross domestic product. You can see here that in 2020, pulp and paper manufacturing contributed $8.42 billion. Wood product manufacturing contributed $12.56 billion, and forestry and logging contributed $4.21 billion, bringing the total amount of GDP contribution to $25.19 billion. For the government and the citizens of Canada, this is critical revenue, and it's used to fund public systems like education, healthcare, and infrastructure development. Statistics Canada estimates that the forest sector employs approximately 309,110 individuals across the country. These are our family, our friends, and our neighbors. They're also skilled workers, often carrying a degree or a diploma. One thing that's often unknown or overlooked about workers in forestry is that individuals practicing professional forestry are bound to a code of ethics. And much like a doctor or a lawyer, they require the right to practice from a regulatory association, such as the Association of BC Forest Professionals here in British Columbia. And their primary mandate is to monitor its members for compliance and professional development. The forest sector is also a primary employer of professionals from other scientific disciplines. Biologists and hydrologists are commissioned to assess streams, lakes, and wetlands within or adjacent to a proposed forestry development. Professional engineers design and survey complex road networks and bridge site plans. Archaeologists and local First Nations walk each corner of a proposed development and look for signs of cultural heritage and belongings. Geologists and geoscientists assess the stability of terrain and provide recommendations to reduce the likelihood of a landslide occurring. It takes so much thought, collaboration, and hard work to put together a final product in forestry. In addition to the industrial and large-scale forest sector, there's a new emphasis being put on innovative and small forestry operations. Community forestry. So community forest offers the local community value and benefits from the land, access to the rights of the forest resources, and participation in management decisions. These forests can be managed for timber production, or agroforestry, recreation, or maybe watershed protection. Much of the innovative work that we see being done in the realm of fuel management and wildfire risk reduction is being pioneered by community forests due to the increasing threats of wildfires. I don't need to tell anyone in basically Canada or BC about wildfires. When a community or a First Nation is given the opportunity to manage the forests that surround them, they can prioritize their specific community needs. Urban forestry. Urban forestry refers to the work being done within the borders of a municipality. Urban foresters care for city trees by managing and planting, pruning, and removing any of the trees located on public land, including streets, greenways, parks, and city property. Additionally, they're often tree advocates for the cities, and they lobby for the importance of trees in the community. The benefits of urban forestry are far-reaching, and they include opportunities for recreation and community, supporting physical health and cleaner air, creating opportunities for urban food production, creating green economy opportunities, reducing disaster risks, contributing to climate change mitigation, supporting biodiversity, cooling urban temperatures, and supporting positive mental health, well-being, and cognitive development. There's also First Nation forestry. Indigenous peoples have a really deep and intimate understanding of their land. Collaboration with Indigenous peoples is imperative for supporting innovation and reconciliation in the face of climate change. As Canada transitions into a greener economy, there's an opportunity for increased Indigenous partnership in the natural resource sector. Innovative and progressive First Nation forestry organizations are already paving the way as leaders, and the understanding of carbon sequestration, ecosystem health, and the benefits of using renewable wood products. Just recently, the BC government has introduced a new tenure license called the First Nations Woodland License. This is a area-based tenure meant to, so basically the goal of this area-based tenure is to give First Nations the ability to have an increased role in forest stewardship, protect traditional and cultural uses, manage forest land and use in the area, and improve their ability to secure investment and loans. So now that I've kind of painted this picture, we can see the issue a little bit more clearly. There's so much good work that's happening in the background and so many good people working in the industry. But how do we move forward with this knowledge and find solutions to improve forestry's image? How do we advocate for sustainable forest management? Well, one of the greatest barriers we face today is educating and retaining young entry-level workers. An aging workforce, a negative industry image, and a lack of engagement from youth has set the stage for a widespread labor shortage. Long gone are the days where a simple Indeed post will have an employer's inbox overflowing with qualified candidates looking to start their career in the forestry sector. The culture's shifting, and the industry's kind of stuck in the past. The future of forestry will depend on attracting and retaining bright young minds to continue Canada's pioneering efforts in sustainable forest management. To do this, the industry needs a rebrand, and employers need to tell their stories about the great work that they're doing in a meaningful and authentic way. It's not an easy task in a world where attention spans are only getting shorter and the number of platforms and channels on offer seem to grow every passing week. Every industry is learning to exist within the fabric of tech and media permeating our society, and forestry is no different. It's time to reconsider how these businesses show up and connect to the people it needs most. The future of forestry might include social media managers, vloggers, and virtual reality training. What's certain is the time to plant seeds for a successful future is now. Cue Stillwater Consulting. So Stillwater is a values-driven organization based in British Columbia who specializes in custom training, business consulting services, including natural resources, business development, project management, marketing, communications, and more. Our mission is to facilitate growth for our clients, students, and employees by helping them find their niche. Acting on this mission allows us to deliver on our core value and core vision of changing lives. Stillwater's worked closely with underrepresented populations to tear down barriers and provide individuals with entry-level training to get their resumes in the hands of employers. Stillwater also delivers on our vision of changing lives by introducing exciting and innovative initiatives with the sole intent of educating and connecting the people around us. Arguably, my favorite initiative that we have going on with Stillwater Consulting right now is Timber Connect. The Timber Connect platform was born from the idea that we feel these voices need to be heard and the good work that's going on in the background needs to be showcased. Acting in line with current tech, we've launched a pretty successful podcast. The guest speakers that we bring on the podcast are as diverse as the industry itself. We speak with entrepreneurs, high-level executives, consultancies, academics, and professionals from other fields. We share current research being done by master's students and PhD candidates. We share stories from experienced professionals and Indigenous leaders who are experts in the field. We also like to collaborate with other organizations who are working hard to improve the culture of forestry in Canada. The Free to Grow campaign aims to achieve gender equality and meaningful inclusion of women, Indigenous peoples, and new Canadians from technical to executive level positions in the forest sector. The campaign is an unprecedented collaboration that was launched because the Gender Equity in Canada Forest Sector National Action Plan Initiative. It's spearheaded by the Canadian Institute of Forestry and the Centre for Social Intelligence, with strategic guidance from the National Steering Committee of Forest Sector Leaders. Gender equity is crucial to the advancement of a thriving and resilient forest sector. As we continue to grow and change, we all have a role to play in making our sector a place where everyone has the support they need to succeed and to thrive. Forestry also needs you, probably now more than ever. Forestry needs people advocating for the industry. We need new ways of reaching younger demographics and getting them excited about joining the sector. We need to share our stories, our knowledge, our research, and our experiences with those who don't understand the industry. We need to bring back the social license and public support for forestry in Canada. Let's promote and advocate sustainable forest management. Let's challenge the status quo. There's a paradigm shift that's happening in forestry. And rather than be bystanders, let's be at the heart of it and encourage difficult conversations and ask hard questions. Growth does not come from staying in our comfort zone. If you want to be a part of this movement, be sure to follow both Stillwater Consulting and Timber Connect on our social media platforms. Because in this day and age, likes, shares, and reposts really help us extend our reach to those who might really need to hear it. Now, to bring this presentation full circle, I think I went a little quicker than I expected, but I'd like to ask you again, what do you think when you hear the word forestry? To me, I think of holistic ecosystem-based management. I think of forest health, community, and resilience. I think of carbon sequestration, renewable wood products, and gainful employment. I hope today's presentation has provided you with a new perspective, and that I hope you'll head out into your daily lives and advocate on behalf of this vital industry for Canada. So thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to answering any questions that any of you might have.